Sometimes the most dangerous people in your life are the ones that are so close to you and they want to see you succeed until you're positioned as a competition or someone to compare themselves to. If you can't hold a little bit of criticism or a little bit of hate, how can you hold this big level of fame? You need to learn how to build the muscle to detach yourself.
Today we're having a really powerful conversation around what happens when you get a little bit too successful for other people's likings. And I honestly don't think enough people are talking about this. I have conversations around this topic all the time with my friends behind the scenes. So I have brought in my friend all the way from Sydney, Leanne Melody. She's an expert in magnetism. She has just created so many incredible opportunities for herself, starting out as a makeup artist in Oscar-winning movies, then pivoting into magnetism coaching. If you're ready to magnetize more aligned friendships and also understand how to hold it when all your friends become your biggest haters, then listen up. Welcome back to Unstoppable Success. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. We are sitting in my lounge room in Perth.
In Perth, my first time here, and it's been so amazing to see your world.
Yes, it's so exciting to sit down properly because I think we've had so many conversations. We love to create content, but I wanted to get really, really raw around this topic on friendships and what starts to happen when you create more and more success. Because I think, I'm sure you can relate, when you start a business, it's almost like no one gets it. No one really asks you, how's your business going? And that can suck, but I actually think that's not even a blip on the radar compared to when you start to create more and more and more success and the shit that gets thrown your way.
When there's higher stakes, it creates, a bigger gap. And I think a lot of people find it scary to enter a new version of themselves because they know that what comes with that sometimes is a rejection from the old way of being, how other people relate to them, and it can create a lot of friction, especially when you level up and become magnetic.
Yeah.
Brings up a lot in people.
I've seen this a lot with my clients. As they start to become more and more successful, they either get more haters from strangers or their mum or someone close to them just decides that they no longer get them. And it's almost like these massive projections on if you're successful, if you're wealthy, you're suddenly arrogant and all of these negative things. And it's probably one of the hardest things to hold because these people are close to us. These people have supported us on the way up. But then when you get there, they flip a switch.
People only want to support you so long as you don't become a trigger for them. And sometimes the most dangerous people in your life are the ones that are so close to you and they want to see you succeed only until a point, until you're positioned as a competition or someone to compare themselves to. So I really believe that everyone is, the more magnetic you become, the more you become a walking mirror to everyone around you. And it's really important to audit the relationships in your life because as you level up or step into new versions of yourselves, you will start to reflect to people where they are, where they're not, what the gap is for who they want to be. And that can be very, very irritating to the point where you'll find yourself as you evolve, start to irritate people, make people uncomfortable. And it might not even be like in a direct way. Maybe it's just a frequency shift. You start to feel people don't really vibe with you, and that actually happens when you become more magnetic because what's happening is your energetic frequency is evolving and it starts to show people where they lack or what they don't have.
Yeah, I know in school, and I shared this in my TEDx as well, around competition. And when you're out there trying to succeed, you have big goals. You're just running your own damn race and you don't even realize someone's announced there was a competition, but you kind of have these little comments where people are like, oh, she did better than me, or oh my gosh, I did better than you. And it's like these projections that I wasn't really aware of.
That we were in competition, yeah.
But what it did was it kind of created this cap for me, and I was subconsciously dimming my light, or if I had the best test in the class, I wouldn't share it. I'd be like, oh cool, that's good, I'm proud of myself, but I wouldn't be like, nah, 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 I got the best score. And so subconsciously we can start to play it down,
yes,
or change who we are to not upset others. Have you found that?
Yes, 100%. And that is a very primal thing. I think a lot of people fear success because they fear rejection. They fear being ostracized from their community. And how that does happen is when we are too loud, when we don't dim our light, it makes people uncomfortable because now we've set a different standard for other people to show up, or again, show them the gap. And so I think it's so easy for us to sit into that fear because we don't want to face that rejection, that like we just want to keep people comfortable.
Yeah. I think what you said about the gap and the mirror is so powerful because not enough people have enough self-awareness. And I think people need to take more ownership of their own shit. But it's interesting because people have so many limiting beliefs on what they think is possible, or they're afraid of success, or they're afraid of failure, and they see you out there doing it. And especially when you're from their world, when you're someone close to them, it kind of shatters their whole concept of what's realistic, what's possible in their eyes. And then they suddenly have to feel the weight of the shame, or not going after their goals, or actively choosing to stay small, and they don't know how to deal with that. So it's like they want to pull you back down.
Yes.
So they can feel comfortable.
And it's so covert. And I think the thing that hurts the most when you're evolving friendships is not taking it personally when you face rejection or criticism from friends, or backstabbing even, because you have to realize a lot of this is their own self-projection. The more that you shine or step out in discomfort, you show people like where, you know, you actually reinvent yourself in someone else's eyes, and it's not comfortable for people to hold that because they only know this one version of you. So what might often happen is that up until you're trying to succeed, when you're trying to get on your feet, your closest friends could be your biggest supporters, but the moment you actually start making moves or making big uncomfortable steps forward, this is where the criticism comes, or they try and shift things or a narrative around you because, and the reason why people do this, again, like the reason why people gossip, criticize and try to bring others down, even if they're your so-called closest friends, is because it's an element of control and them receiving control so that you're not constantly projecting to them, you know, what they lack or where they're not enough or what they haven't succeeded in.
I think what you said about it being covert is so relevant. One, because 99% of the time they don't realize they're doing it.
No.
It's literally just like this innate self-protection mechanism, and they see it through the lens of, I care about you and I'm trying to protect you, or I'm trying to give you some constructive criticism or whatever it might be. And so in their minds, it is coming from such a genuine place, but they don't have the awareness around it. And then from, I guess, the other side, we can sometimes see it as that as well. Like people can sort of say, are you sure you want to go after that big goal? Or are you sure you want to do that?
Dressed up
You
as
might
concern.
get hurt. And that's actually why I love mentorship, because sometimes people don't want to hear it, but like as mentors or as coaches, we get to reflect with absolutely no bias or personal, I guess, gain from it, because we don't have that personal connection whereby they're in your life every single day.
That is.
Have you had any instances where you've had to deal with this kind of situation?
Absolutely. And I feel like with the closer some of your friends are, the more covert it is, because one, yes, they want the best for you, but also sometimes when people project their own fears and insecurities, we don't realize it's because that's their standard of belief of what's possible for them. And so I really take it with a grain of salt, who I take advice from, who I vent to even. I'm not going to be venting to someone about relationships who isn't in a happy, fulfilled relationship. Same with career, because maybe they're projecting their own concerns, but if they don't live that life and have the evidence, they're only going to give you, with goodwill, advice, but from a very skewed lens.
Have you had a time in your life where you've started to succeed more and like notice this?
Over the last couple of years, I was finding my feet again with coaching and finding a new stage. And I had a really good friend who was my number one supporter, my biggest fan, and was always there to uplift me when I was making and paving the way. But as soon as I made a big energetic shift to take action and really get things moving again and find a different momentum, the way I showed up to life was different. My frequency was different. And I really believe that this triggered something in her to see me as either a competition or something to be compared to, even if we were in completely different lanes. And why this hurt so much was the friendship was never based on that. But I think doing this work, you realize that we will always reflect to people a gap.
Yeah.
And that was really helpful.
Yeah. So obviously then you had the sales flowing through, you were like building momentum, you had this audience and like all of these things you kind of just snapped back into it and like
into my zone of genius. And up until this point, she had only ever known me as the relaxed, free-flowing, manifesting version of me, the one that was just, finding my feet. And so this is why sometimes it's really covert and it's very dangerous when you let this energy into your life, because they will want the best for you. And I believe it's pure, intentional, and genuine. But what we don't realize is that everybody's hurt and everyone's shadows start coming up the moment we start moving different, and they have to relate to us different.
What kind of things were they doing or saying?
Yeah, so up until me stepping back into my flow, there was no criticism, nothing behind my back, nothing but unlimited support. But where that friction started happening was when I was starting to reflect parts of my life that just was not a match or a mirror. And so she would literally be speaking about me, sharing criticism that I've never heard before, and
Can you give us some deets?
changing the narrative. On the way up, she'd be my biggest support, introduce me to all of these people freely, and there would be no, weird exchange. But as I started, stepping into my own light and power, this criticism started happening out of nowhere. Like, saying outlandish things or making assumptions that I'm here to network or be an opportunist, which I don't know why should not be a bad thing, but when it's pitted against women, being an opportunist or asking or looking for opportunity is meant to be like something negative.
You weren't even walking and pitching anything, but even if you were, I'd be like, get that. Like you can help someone, go and help them,
So
like
there's
grow your
two
business,
pieces
whatever.
of criticism. One, I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't reaching my goals or being ambitious enough. Now, this criticism never actually happened when I wasn't doing the work. As soon as I started doing the work and stepping into that, I all of a sudden am not ambitious enough or haven't done anything, have nothing to prove. And so, yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy time.
Yeah, it can just flip like that. And so the core lesson, I guess, from this, or like, what did you learn through that experience?
One thing that I'm still learning is when friendships evolve, you have a backstabbing friend, it's not you. And it's not always just them. It's not that people are innately bad or jealous or envious. It's just our shadow. And when we can learn to take a step back and accept that everybody has shadows and they reflect in many different ways, in sometimes unexpected ways. When we stop taking that personally and see it as we're just becoming a mirror for other people's triggers, it will completely change your life in the way that you respond to relationships, even your own. When you are triggered by someone and someone just randomly irritates you, everything they do is irritating to you, it shows you the gap of what you need to heal and where you need to look within.
Yeah. Have you done any like practices to kind of let go of this or heal? Because it's almost like a grieving, but it's also like, I always say we have two choices in any situation, whether it's haters online, whether it's our own haters in our mind, whether it's friends. I always say we have two choices. We can either step back into comfort. We can tone it down. We can lower our ambitions. We can just stop talking to that person about our ambitions, but still that's kind of saying, I don't deserve to be successful, or when I'm successful, it's unsafe for me.
Yeah.
Or option two is like, okay, we could see it as evidence from the universe that we're building our resilience, because at the next level, there's going to be more haters, more things, and it's not trying to avoid them, but it's saying, let me build my resilience, let me build my strength around holding that next level of success.
Absolutely. And I say this to clients all the time who want to step into visibility. If you can't hold a little bit of criticism or a little bit of hate, how can you hold this big level of fame? Because you need to learn how to build the muscle to detach yourself. I think the biggest thing is learning not to take this personally and always seeing these experiences as a way for you to level up. And so what I did in this situation, it was a very, very hurtful, grieving situation, was really write a letter from a place of peace and my most empowered self, completely detached from the emotion, because that leveling up will expose us to judgment. It just hurts when it's from the people closest to you. But again, detaching, writing them a letter, I burned it in the fire, let go. And consciously know what I'm calling in, creating room. When you rid yourself of energy or intuitively feel like people are no longer want or wish the best for you, you also open up space to invite more people in your life, like yourself.
Yeah.
Always support you and never see you as a competition.
Yeah. Did you have to do any healing around like those parts? Because she obviously called out like, and the people closest to us can see things that they will
vulnerabilities.
take and
Yeah.
like weaponize it. Did you have to do healing around those parts of you that she kind of weaponized in a way?
Yeah, and again, that's the most hurtful thing because the people closest to you know your soft spots. They know your weaknesses. And for me, making a big transition to LA was a really weak spot because I was re-identifying myself. So to be called certain things or like be criticized for not doing enough was really hurtful. Of course, there's so much work you could do. I've done breath work healing. I work with shamanic healers. I always learn how to regulate, meditate, give myself this space to readjust.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's a
good.
lot.
One thing I always share, like one of my biggest fears was being seen as arrogant. Like no one had necessarily called me that, but it was just a fear that I had that if I became more successful, more wealthy, or if I just said, wow, I'm proud of myself and
Yeah,
shared my
owning it.
wins, of course someone could see that as arrogant. And so for me, instead of downplaying my success, downplaying my wins, like watering it down, I realized that I had to actually own the part of me that could be seen as arrogant. And I think so often we think arrogance, that's bad. Let me just pretend that part of me doesn't exist, that part of my shadow. So instead I had to go grab the part of me that could be seen as arrogant, reintegrate it and say, actually, I love the part of me. And how can I get that part of arrogance in a healthy way? So I'm not walking around being like, let me be the most arrogant person out. But by me sharing my wins, could that be arrogant? Yes. So let me do it. Let me turn the dial up. Let me be a little more arrogant, obnoxious, all of these things that people might shine back. And if they do, I'll say thank you very much. And I think when we can reclaim the things that we're maybe afraid of people seeing or afraid of people throwing back at us, whether it's around wealth or success or visibility. And there's always way more work to be done. I've got way more layers to unearth, but that was such a game changer.
Huge.
And for everybody who's been listening to my brand or even seen my TED Talk, that's become my biggest superpower. And oftentimes these moments, like you might not be able to see it in the moment, but the things that get reflected back to you in a negative sense, sometimes and quite often our shadows are our biggest life lesson that we actually get to share with others. So it's actually exciting to get hate now. I'm like, show me more goodness.
It's more evidence that you're triggering someone else who doesn't want to be arrogant, so they're projecting that arrogance.
And again, like we're not out here with a life goal to be like, let me trigger as many people. But I also welcome it. Like if we know we're triggering people, it's their invitation. They can either look inwards and say, why am I triggered? Or they can go on with their life and that's fine. But it's giving them almost an invitation to explore that as well.
Yeah, it really is. And what you're doing as well when you claim that part of yourself, me claiming the part of me that's always trying to take opportunities, is you disarm it. You disarm it from judgment and you just accept it.
Yeah. And isn't that cool? Because you teach people how to create opportunities out of nothing, like out of nowhere.
Exactly. And
like,
that's my work.
That is your work. So it's like these pieces that people see in us can be such a gift as well. What would you say to like either your past self or someone listening right now who either hasn't experienced yet, has gone through it, or maybe is experiencing it right now? Like wrap up a little piece of advice.
I think a really big part of why this shook me was when we put so much of our validation or our trust into friendships and external people outside of ourselves, the words just shake a little more because there's a level of truth to it. You know, there's a level of power we give people. I think regardless if this is a friend, a best friend, a partner, whoever, the more grounded you can be within yourself, with your purpose, your light, the more that these negative tropes just don't shake us because we are so secure and we seek our own sense of validation. And that's going to happen regardless. I think, again, the more you do the inner work to really know that this is my story and mine and it's sacred to me, the less we give power.
Yeah, so
to
good.
shift the
How do you
narrative.
find the people that want to lift you up?
Join powerful AF mastermind containers, coaching programs, or like your common interests. If you have a goal, for us, we obviously met through a mastermind, through a goal to level up our lives and be in a circle of like-minded, expansive women. I think getting into more rooms like that and really giving free value, even with your audience. I think the more that you start to share what you're about and how you help people, you're naturally going to attract people in your brand, like how you were telling me the other day, like everybody in your world just loves matcha, or like it loves your vibe, loves watching reality TV. It's just as a when you become magnetic, you just start to attract that because you share it.
Yeah, I've literally had clients sign up because they love reality TV. So yeah, sharing more of you, and I guess not being afraid of what people might see in you.
Yeah, and you'll naturally weed out the bad ones. Like for me, this is a really unique scenario because I never attract people in my life who are drama-ridden, gossip-driven. But I think the more that you continue to share your light, you'll start to attract an easier, lighter group of friends.
Yeah. So good. Well, thank you for sharing your story, your journey, your wisdom. And if people want to find you, where can they
You can find me on Instagram at Leanne Melody _, and I'm also on YouTube at Leanne Melody _ and TikTok.
We'll put all the links in the show notes so everyone can just click on over and say hi. And if you have loved this episode, make sure you share it on your social media. This is also on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. You can watch it, you can play it. Tag me and Leanne in any of your stories. We'd love to hear what you think.
Awesome.
Thanks for hanging